Coming up next on The Health Hustle.
If I do a particular workout, I'm going to do it well. Like I'm going to film it well. Everything's going to be done well. But then I could take that and I could save it, archive it, and put it in a million different places. And I've just saved myself so much time, and it was awesome versus trying to do as much as I possibly could, but maybe the quality wasn't there and stuff is just sort of just like lost, and you're kind of fighting all the time to create more. Could have saved a lot of headaches.
Hey folks, and welcome to the Health Hustle of Austin, Texas. On this show, we uncover the big ideas from your fellow health and fitness entrepreneurs in the Austin, Texas area about how they built their business and the lessons they learned along the way. I'm your host, Corey Hibbett, and on this episode, I had a chance to sit down with my guy, Eric Champ of Champ City. Eric has one hell of an inspirational story from hitting literally rock bottom and staring at himself in the mirror and realizing that he had to go up one more pant size to now create an insanely successful online personal training business and a huge social media following from authentically sharing his story. Some of the things that we get into are why it is so important to get around the right people and how Eric was able to do that at the YMCA, why Eric always says motivation isn't enough, a short masterclass on habits and habit stacking, the moment he finally decided to start listening to his wife. I'm sure all the females listening to the show will love that part of it. The story of starting a mobile personal training business right before the COVID lockdown happened, his first virtual client, how he was able to do the inner work that really changed his life, how to grow a thriving social media audience, and so much more. Without further ado, let's go. Eric Champ, welcome to the show. How you doing, man?
Man, I'm good. I appreciate you having me here, and it's good to get outside. I like doing these things to get outside of the house.
Yeah.
Always working from the house.
Yeah, I feel that.
On top of each other all the time.
Yeah.
Man, it's hard.
Well, I appreciate you coming out. This will be good.
Man.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I've been following your content for a while. You're incredible at this whole social media game. If anybody doesn't know your backstory, really you have a pretty incredible journey about how you reached a breaking point and really had a transformation in your life as to really how you even got into fitness in the first place. And it was much later in life than I think most people genuinely get into something like that. Would you mind sharing that lead domino moment of your life that really got you into just figuring out this health and fitness thing in your own life?
Yeah. I don't really talk about this too often, but I've been on this journey since about 36 years old. And that's exactly this current journey that I'm on. And now I'm starting to talk about it as the current journey because thinking back to it, I've really been on about since I was on a major downward spiral in life. And I'm probably outside of the bell curve of most when it comes to some things. But kids, family, work, getting into your 30s, mortgage, those responsibilities, those weigh on everybody. And if you're not being intentional with your life and what you're doing, you might find yourself like, wow, I got to do something, in your mid 30s, and plus everything else I was doing, and put me in a bad spot. But the story goes is that I like to wear, if I'm wearing slacks, really comfortable slacks, they got to be comfortable. Mm-hmm. And I always had them professionally hemmed, and I had these pair of 38s just done, and it's these are great. One day I'm putting them on and they're too tight. They're just I just had them just a few weeks. I'm like, my God, I'm going to a 40. And it wasn't really necessarily the pants that it was. There was something very specific about that moment that really drew me into the mirror, looking at myself, which of course I avoided at all costs at that time. Not even my physical appearance, but just really just hiding. I was really just afraid of the truth, more so mentally of what was happening in my life. Yeah, things that were just unraveling around me that I was not willing to accept. And it was that moment that I realized, Eric, you're everything that, of course, you did not want to be. And my whole life, I wanted to be the chain breaker. My family legacy of suicide, depression. It's really bad. Really close in our immediate family. It's that's not going to be me. My kid is more, I'm going to break that. And, our little girl named Annabelle, she's going to be set free. Mm-hmm. Man, I was going right down that path and probably a lot worse. And something caught me in that time, and it could have been forever, but it got me into the gym. The next day, walked a mile on the treadmill. It was like all I could muster. And I was just glad that I got there. But man, this is like probably the 10th journey that I've been on. 5 of them were probably semi-serious. That lasted, 3 months or longer.
When you say journeys, are you talking like health stuff? Like you
Health
tried
stuff,
to,
like really trying to make a comeback.
Sure.
Like I left the military forever ago, and maybe 6 months after leaving or 8 months, find yourself like, man, I'm not running as much, I'm not hiking as much, I'm not doing this as much. Put on 5 pounds. Like, what's going on? Okay, I'm getting out there. I'm going to start making it right. And then responsibilities and things like that get in the way. Like, all right, I'm going to get in the gym the next day, right? And so it'd be these mini journeys of like starting a 3-week program and failing. Probably been on 5 or so of those and 5 serious journeys. And so this is like the 10th one that I've kind of been on.
What do you feel like the reason was that you were unable to accomplish those goals in the earlier ones? Was it just that there wasn't enough pain? Were you just like not far enough into that rock bottom moment that you were really angry enough, I guess, to make the difference? Like, what do you feel like it was?
That is the question. And the honest answer is that I think a lot of it is like the essence of our business program is revolves around habits, lifestyle. And I'm sure we'll segue into that. My environment and process, what I was doing, who I was surrounded with, was didn't give me enough opportunities to succeed. And I'm married to a physician, like he practices in functional health, and she's been trying to get me to eat something green for 10 years, and I did. Yeah, I was like pizza rolls.
Pizza rolls.
And somehow I survived.
Who bought them? How did that even happen? Because I feel like as a functional medicine practitioner, there's no way she was buying them. Like, were you just pulling into the gas station on the weekends and buying this crap? Like, how did that even get in the house?
Oh, if they had them at the gas stations, it would have been like me times another hundo. No, but it had HEB. Where of course they got the best ones. They're just the classic ones, the ones that are the worst for you, I imagine. And I mean they got like 18,000 ingredients in them, right? And it's just basically some wheat and some pepperoni sauce. Somehow they got all this stuff in there, right? So
maybe it's real meat. Who knows?
Yeah, and I was kidding myself for a week, right? Definitely not, I'm sure, but kidding myself with these like 20 packs, 40 packs, and next thing you know, it's like the 180 pack. You stack. They're like sandbags, and that's because I needed to fill like the whole entire sheet of these pizza rolls, baked perfectly on each side. Yeah, so she wasn't buying them. I was buying them, and that's what I lived off of. It's almost realistically, somewhat metaphorically, that and 8 ounces of water for like 10 years, and everything else on top of that, but. Yeah, I did this workout. I saw some people in there like on that day, and it wasn't like a man, what's going on kind of thing, or any kind of embrace like that. They saw me, I saw them. I was really kind of embarrassed that they saw me, but I was there, and I saw them again like the next day, and then it was probably like a couple weeks into it, like we started making conversations, and then I realized at that moment that like these people are in my life. They're too trying to make changes. And so I was like, this is the building that I need to be in. And so I started thinking about it in that way of not like going there to like move weight or run on the treadmill or anything like that. I was like, just going to be in the building. That's it. Like if I could be in this building, better things can happen, period. That was my environment. And I went back there for like nearly every day for a year and a half. Not necessarily work out, just be there, my time. And then there were some environmental things like, I don't know if like my wife or something had organized the fridge, and this may sound strange, but there were like green options like that looked different. Like I don't know if it was like just like salad kits or something about it was like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna try this. And
did you have your kid at that point?
So yes.
And how old was she?
Yeah, so here she was 2 and some change.
Okay. Because it's funny. Obviously, a lot of people that listen to the show are like business owners and entrepreneurs, and the single biggest factor as to why somebody makes a massive change in their life, whether it's starting a business or doing a side hustle or changing their health, is it's kids, it's children. It's like it changes the reason for your existence to some degree, to the point where like it's no longer about you and your desire for pizza rolls. It's about you wanting to be there for somebody else.
You know, I've actually almost, in a sense, made an entire business out of the exact opposite of that. Because I argue that this is why I say motivation is overrated all the time, is because, you know, that's what you're told. You're told that exact same thing. Like, your life changes. And by all intents and purposes, it should. But let me ask you, man, you walk into the hospital, you give birth. You're that person. Give birth. Your wife gives birth.
I was going to say I can't do that. But.
Yeah. Your wife gives birth. Your family gives birth.
Sure.
Your unit gives birth. You have a child. And of course it's emotional.
Sure.
It's like the Sarah McLachlan, raising the songs, raising, money for pups when they need it, right? It pulls on your strings like that, but times like an infinite amount when you have a kiddo, right? So it's pulling on you. And you think, yeah, okay, this is where the momentum shifts. If it's your first kiddo, you're in the hospital for maybe 2 days, 3 days, enjoying it. You come home, what are you? Man, you are the exact same person that you were when you left. Maybe you have enough motivation to do something different, maybe. But I argue that you're the same person, like you still have the same habits. We're walking around at all times, like the sum of our habits, good, bad, doesn't matter, plus whatever operating system that was coded into us during our formative years. That's a whole other conversation. That's like early childhood stuff that sometimes has to be unlearned. Man, Corey, I would say that, because when our little was born and came home, and man, it was pizza rolls. It was 8 ounces of water. But now it's like your time that you did have is now shrunk, right? Now you're like, everything is like 10 times harder, right, in your life. And so you're trying to figure that out and survive. And at least I was. And most of the clients that I work with begin to understand that it's not about the motivation that's going to like push you, that might get you to the starting line. That might like get you to purchase a gym membership, maybe get you to go once. But if your lifestyle or your habits don't align with who you want to be, like really align, like the little habits, not like something like, I'm going to improve my bedtime routine. That's not a habit. Like a habit would be like, okay, after you brush your teeth, you're going to get your gym clothes out and you're going to set it out exactly where you want to do it. Like that is the exact habit. You're like stacking, you're right. You're making a habit loop. That can help you. That action, when you wake up, right there, it's one less thing that you don't have to think about. It's a barrier gone.
That's why I led this whole conversation with just that principle of the lead domino, because I think about that a lot, of how much our environment plays us like a fiddle. And I was just out, like I was telling you before, out in California, and I met a guy on the train from actually LA to San Diego. Never met him in my life. We're now buddies for life, no question.
Nice.
We actually got together and grabbed a non-alcoholic beer in Ocean Beach and caught up, and super cool guy. But anyways, I was just talking about that principle of friction. And I think about this a lot, and I'm sure you probably talk about this with clients all the time, and you probably do it in your own life as well. And what I mean by that is that I try to make the things I want to do have as little friction as possible, and the things I don't want to do have as much friction as possible. And so like a perfect example of this is like people who, if you set out your running shoes right next to your bed when you get up in the morning and you get into your running shoes, you are now 10 times more likely to go running that day. Maybe you don't, that's fine, but you just made it easier to make that habit or to make that action a reality. And then the reverse is true, right? Is like, say you want to stop drinking. Well, a good starting place is just get all the alcohol to your house, right? Now you can't even like go into the cupboard and just grab it. Now all of a sudden you have to actually go to the store and buy it. And maybe you do and maybe you don't, but it doesn't matter. It's about creating the friction. And it's always like shown time and time again how the people that we see as like motivated or disciplined, they're not really either. They've just done a really good job of
adding or reducing friction in the areas of life that they want or don't want to do, essentially. I'm sure you see this in your own life all the time.
I absolutely love that, man. And we do. And in the end, it's what we want our future to be when we talk about that, living, with intent. That's exactly right. It's funny. Like I talk about, we go to sleep, we wake up, the moment that our eyelids pop open. It's like the chances of you exercising immediately start, like the risk of you not exercising immediately starts going up. The moment your eyelids come up, it's like, man, I'm already at risk of not exercising. I just woke up a millisecond ago, right? But it's true.
Yep.
And then when we have to take that first responsible action for whatever that's, like either making your kiddos lunch for school, getting their backpack ready, and if you answer that email or whatever that is outside of your own me time, your self-care time, whatever that first responsible action is, like it exponentially increases. And for the folks who are trying to build routines, trying to do something different, especially if they are busy, your audience are busy people, compounded if you're a single mom or single dad, or like an executive of like large workforces. Your time is so, like your self-care time could be, you might have 17 minutes on Tuesday and that's it. Especially if you're that single dad of 3 boys, single mom of multiple kids or one kiddo. You might have if you have 2 jobs, you really might only have 17 minutes on a random Tuesday morning. And if you don't do that action, then like something else has to give in your life to break. It has to. And so setting yourself up to succeed in that window can lead you to success. Do we have to live in that forever? No, because eventually, if you do happen to build some good routines and you do build habits, like those things that we're stacking all the time, and you're building wins, we don't have to do it every single day, but we generally don't want to miss twice when we're building habits. But they got to be so small, almost like we're not doing work whatsoever. And that's the only way you could really actually, like, realistically achieve that, by not missing twice. And if that's ingrained, more than likely, whether it's fitness or you're succeeding in business, more than likely that's going to lead to a positive outcome that you're going to like. And that's progress. And that's going to breed other progress. And that might open your eyes to readjust your life circumstance. Maybe you talk to your boss, or you rethink your work procedures, or something in your life where it's a monumental type shift, fundamental shift in everything that you're doing in life, in order for you to have even more self-care time, because you're now starting to see it. But it's like getting that initial inertia is really hard.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's why I love that idea, and you hit on it nicely, of just like the small wins. Obviously, we're talking about habits right now, which I want to get back to actually your journey in a second. But before we do, I just want to tap on real quick are you familiar with BJ Fogg?
I'm not.
So he wrote a book called Tiny Habits. BJ Fogg.
Oh, Tiny. Yeah. I'm terrible at names.
So
know the book,
do you know what his like background is before that book, actually?
No.
So he was he's like a behavioral science expert, and he actually was one of the main guys behind helping to create why social media is so addictive. He just really understands human behavior at a really high level. So obviously he helped them create apps that are incredibly addicting, like all of our social media apps. Obviously, that wasn't his intention, but he was a part of that equation. And then he wrote Tiny Habits, which is 100% about like health and happiness and wellness and trying to live a better and healthier life. And I'm assuming you've read it, but like I feel like the quote that I pulled out of that I read this a while ago, and I still think about it all the time. And he said, "We change best by feeling good, not by feeling bad." And I think about that a lot, of like, that's why small wins are so powerful. Like something as basic as like, let's say you want to start flossing. You've never been able to floss in your life. Floss one tooth. That's it. That's your goal for the day, we'll say the week, is you do one tooth. Because what happens is when you do one tooth, you feel good about it, and then you're more likely to do it again. Versus flip that. Let's say you want to say brush or floss all your teeth, and then you don't do it a certain day of the week because you're busy or you're tired or stressed or whatever it is, then you feel bad about it, and now you're way less likely to do it. right? It's the negative emotions that we tie to something that are way more powerful than the positive emotions. So we need to set those goals like so small. Like even another one that he talks about is like, do one push-up a day. That's it. Like you have to set the barrier so tiny and so minuscule that you almost guarantee yourself a win. So you start feeling good about it, and then you can build on top of that and then start stacking those habits on top of it.
I would say we would probably be lying to ourselves if we all couldn't relate to the flossing analogy there. That's a hard one to do, to actually, man, so many different routines, and then you stack flossing on top of that. That's perfect, right? Floss one tooth. And it's not about like how you floss it. That eventually get better. It's not a matter of like what floss you use. It's a matter of whatever, if it's directly after your teeth, whatever your dentist recommends, like when you should do it. It's like you do this and you got to stack it next to something that is so ironclad in your life. Like you put down that toothbrush and you pick up that floss that's right there. Floss that one tooth, feel awesome.
Yeah, I can't take credit for it. It's totally PJ Fogg, but
PJ Fogg.
Yeah. Well done, man. So let's get back to your journey here. So you obviously had this breaking point of your life. You had to buy pants that are way too big for your natural stature. Obviously, you're a super fit guy now. And I can't imagine you're above like a 34 maybe? I don't even know idea what you rock now.
Man, 32.
32. Sweet, I'm a 31, so pretty close. But so you had that breaking moment, and obviously so much of this business I feel like now that you do, because you, if I remember correctly, you were essentially working for an elevator company?
That's right.
Right. Okay, so how did you make that transition away from the elevator company into what you do now with your fitness business? And also on top of that, I guess why?
Yeah. Well, the why is easy. I was fired from the elevator business.
Oh.
Yeah. So super simple. You know,
you're too fit for that business? They're like, no. You look too good. We can't keep you around.
Well, the last job I had, I absolutely loved. In fact, all the jobs that I had in that industry, about 10 years, I loved it. I loved being in that industry. And that was an awesome job. Brutal, but awesome. Traveled Tuesday to Friday or Monday to Thursday every week. And I had that job for about close to 3 years and very successful in it. In fact, all the jobs that I had I was very successful in it. A maniac when it came to drinking. Just could not stop. It's one of those guys that could be successful while doing that at the same time.
You're functional alcoholic kind of situation.
Nearly. That's another part, but at the worst part of where I was, around 255 pounds. Yeah, I needed the slacks for that job. I was already starting to kind of find my way into a different life while I still had that job and managing as I was working like at hotel gyms and stuff like that. It wasn't too long into the journey where I was let go. The whole team was just broken up. Our unit was just too expensive. You know, they didn't think they needed us. So they let us, but that was an awesome point in my life that gave me more opportunities to look at my health and wellness, to get reconnected. I turned into a stay-at-home dad, taking care of our little, getting her to and from school, managing all the house stuff. I mean, because the last year and 2 years were basically gone, away from them. And so I needed to reconnect, plus everything that I destroyed along the way. That was coming in the repairs. But being let go, forced out of that, gave me the green light, the good path to, like, I'm just going to invest in myself. I'm going to start working on this. So
this was probably what, 2019?
This was closer to 2017 in that time frame, either 17 or 18. And so I listened to my wife, started to just put myself in a better environment.
I bet she loves hearing that.
Finally
listen to my life.
I started, instead of the 120 pack pizza rolls, it was like 90, and then
I've heard you talk about that, about walk it backwards, I think you called it, or something along those lines, right?
Yeah.
Is like walk your way out of, because like just really quickly for people, I feel like there's two things that I see happen most often when people actually make a change in their life. It's rather like a really extreme moment like you had, like looking at yourself in the mirror and just like really breaking down in that moment. Like you just had enough pain. You're like, okay, I need to start making steps in the right direction. Or, and in your case, and the little baby domino steps that eventually lead you to where you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So like for you, it was like, instead of the Costco size pizza rolls, it was like the Target size or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Little things just like that. Yeah. Not to get too much into it. I know we're trying to get into more of how really like I got started, what I find successful. So I'll be a little briefer on the story.
No, sure.
And anyone can reach out to me, by the way. I'm more than happy to elaborate more on details, and a lot of them are out there. I don't really hold back. Yeah, so I started to make some incremental changes, and it took a while, but it was about a year and a half later I found myself in a pretty good spot, mentally, physically. A lot of therapy was involved. That's where I started to get the idea that health and wellness is more than just banging on weights. It's more than just getting on the treadmill, and that's the same principle really goes on to all our professional endeavors and really just endeavors in general. Is that it's multifaceted. It's mindset. It's nourishing our body the right way, and of course in movement. And so I started to think about that and how I was able to work my way through those various stages, but holistically. That I was able to finally kind of come around and unlock a lot of potential within me based on a lot of that hard work. And even at that year and a half mark of sort of changing a lot of my physical appearance, doing a lot of good work mentally, at that point, I just about reduced alcohol to nearly nothing at that point. A lot of work was done, but I was still just bare. That's why I say I'm really on this journey right now. Still in it, and I'll always be on it.
Totally.
So going through that, Corey, it was I realized that here I am at 38 and change, not old, but like this is a little later in life. No longer have this I've gone through the Marines, I've gone through this elevator industry that gave my life for 10 years, plus the military stuff, and now here I am, single dad, 38, rocking shape. Doing like pretty well. Like I need a second coming in life. Like where I haven't really put thought into this. I was so focused on just taking care of myself. That's it. I needed to be just that. And that's an important deal. And I did. And then it was time to start focusing on some outside areas of my life. I wanted to help others, of course. That's where the never too late thing came from. Thinking like, man, I can do this. God, others can do this for sure. I'm not an athlete, nothing. Like I'm just dad. And so it's like, I didn't want to like purchase a gym. Didn't want to go work in like a YMCA. And I love the YMCA. Huge shout out to all the YMCAs in all the land, and all the gyms out there. They do a great job. I didn't want to work in that environment. And so what can I do? And it's like, can I travel? Can I take fitness to people? I wanted to help. My initial focus was just dads and veterans. Like that's like a small group. And I feel like older dads I could relate to. Veterans, obviously, I could relate to. Both of those groups might be nervous to get into the gym, scared, rightfully so. The time, don't know what to do, the start, right? Like I have a winning plan for them. Can I get some dumbbells, pretty kettlebells, put them in my car? Can I take them to their house? And then it just started going. So it's like, what if I get this like trailer and like this thing? And the next thing you know, it's like I see this thing on Pinterest. And it was this mobile gym. Couldn't believe my eyes. I was like, this is it. Like I'm doing this. And 6 months later, that's exactly what I got. I got this mobile gym. And the terrible entrepreneur that I am, thinking like, okay, I'm going to get this one. Then next thing you know, I'm going to just test the market. I'm going to have a fleet of like 25 of these mobile gyms, like all across Central Texas of like that are designed for different types of wellness, like Pilates and yoga and more like CrossFit and just traditional body, some smaller mobile gyms that are like anybody can carry almost with like like a smart car. Do they still make those? I haven't seen one in a long time. Yeah. But,
Now they have the mobile food delivery things. I'm sure you've seen those scooting around town where like they just like automatically go to your door and then pop open your food's in there. And those are pretty crazy. But you can probably do that with like dumbbells, right? Imagine one of these little carts like going up to your door and it's like, oh, we got some dumbbells here for you. Do some curls. And then it just like scoots back. Business idea.
I'm gonna have to think about this all over again. Yeah.
Anyway, so you had your mobile thing going around.
So I got this mobile gym thing and finally get it. So excited. Graphics are on it. Terrible logo, like this kettlebell on this leaf thing.
I love the honesty.
Like, of course I got, I got like business cards, t-shirts, you name it, right? You're so excited about your business and it's everywhere. No one cares. I still have like probably 30,000 business cards, man. I'm just like a closet all over the place, everywhere. And I can't even give like we play like games of them at the house.
Yeah, right.
Like, which one is different? Like the ones that has like a bent corner.
Friends come over, you're like stuffing them in their pockets. You're like, here, you might need these. Just take these with you.
I just want to go on top of like the Frost building and just like
throw them.
Just pay a fine. There they go. But so had this mobile gym. Here's kind of like where the cool story is. It starts to happen from a business sense. About the time that I started like putting the concept together to get this mobile gym built, and like I said, it was about 4 to 6-ish months before I got it. I started to create my social media, and the more and more authentic I started sharing some stuff. At first, it was just purely workouts and just kind of right there in line with everyone else putting workouts up.
Prior to this, were you posting on social media at all? Like, did you have any presence on there?
Again, another date that I need to I go back to my very first post when that was, but I had a personal account, which I hadn't posted to, like, it was like, one post like every 6 months or something.
Because I know you have a really healthy following now. So I was just curious as to like, did that explode when you started posting the fitness stuff, or were you already on there? Like
really when it was the time that like I got like the domain name, filled out like the LLC paperwork, when I felt like I was in like an official business, like that's when I launched the business Instagram. It's like, okay, like I'm here. Yeah. Like this is what you can expect from me. So it's around the same time. At that time, there was this guy who, started doing workouts in a couple before and afters. Saying, hey, look, I could do this, you could do this too. And this guy from California reached out, and he's like, man, do you have an online program? I was like, no, I really don't. Like, I don't even know what, like, can that be effective whatsoever? I get this message from him almost like on a weekly basis. Like, man, you got your online program yet? No, man, don't have it. And, I get the mobile gym. This is months later. I start using it. Right around the city. It's a mobile gym. Got it. Could not be any more excited. Again, kettlebell with the leaf on it, holistic, flying around the city. But the model was working. Going to businesses, parks, wherever I needed to go. I was taking this gym to people's homes, and they were loving it. But it was kind of tiring too, man. It was. This part I didn't think through. Breaking down basically an entire gym for one person. I mean, it's not like the entire gym, but this thing had 4 squat rack stations that could come out, and all this super modular, and then like this huge station in the back. I would never do that for one person, but this thing was so big. I wanted to get, like, of course, the biggest one. So in case I was like training groups, I could do like groups of 20, and by all accounts, it would have worked like perfectly. But I was just doing at that time, basically 1-on-1 and a couple of 2-on-1 sessions with people with this gigantic gym. So like a quarter of it was broken down, plus a lot of stuff was coming out. So all in with one person, it could have been the drive and all that. It could have been 3 hours. I wasn't blindly like following that model, but I really was in the like, can I do this? Can this work? Can it be scaled in some senses? And I was starting to learn that maybe it could. But I was tired. And then 2 weeks to stop the spread. Message, right? March 2020. The governor here in Texas, Governor Abbott, is like, the rules of the gyms and all that stuff, everyone's going to shut down. At that time, like, I was tired. With my own training too, still continuing that, so I was really tired. I probably could have gotten around those rules with this unique gym, probably could have made a fortune.
Sure.
The only person
Doing it outside or something.
in Texas, or in, one of few people in the whole U.S. that has this operating gym, right? I mean, you saw online people are out working out with anything, But I didn't. I called all the clients that I had, and I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna adhere to this." Really, kind of like it's like, gosh, like as bad as it was, like the circumstance of what was happening, I was fortunate in thinking like this could be a good break for me, and because I just wasn't stopping, like clockwork. That message came in, the guy from California. He's like, "Hey man, you got an online program?"
Who was this guy, and why was he so tenacious with getting a program from you? Was this like a buddy of yours?
Nope, never met him before ever.
He was just following your social media? What was he?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was like, this time, I was like, you know what, man? I do. I didn't. Had nothing. No, I was like, man, I'll call you in a few days.
Mm-hmm.
Found some software. Wrote it. I was like, okay, like maybe this could work. Like there was, I found some software that was delivered in an app, and I tried a bunch. I was like, I'm real particular about how people perceive things, and it's got to be easy. Everything's got to be easy. And same software that I use to this day. I delivered to him, took him on as a client. Still we're not seeing the other folks, and so at this point he's my only client. Talk to him every day. Yeah, every day. Yeah, to teach him every single thing I possibly could teach him. Like 8 weeks later, really 6 getting in. We finished at 8, but he like had incredible progress. Like in this remote, here I am in Texas and California, and he wrote a great review. And at that point, like I learned 2 things. I was like, okay, this remote stuff can work, and now I have my first review from that. I can do this at a much more. I could provide like 7 days a week total wellness solution to people, nutrition, exercise, all that they can utilize on their schedule. Like they're not meeting another trainer at their gym on their schedule and just like it's another thing. Like we could really take everything that I believe, mindset, nutrition, physical fitness, all of that, and offer that to them at an affordable price when you really break it all down. But of course, the folks who like, there are some people, it's like a hard no. Like they need to be with people,
sure,
or one-on-one for sure, and they'll never work. But the ones that can operate in that environment, we found that out, and I was like, this is amazing. And then fast forward to today, we're coaching folks on almost every continent on earth.
Did you ever meet this guy from California?
Never met him, man. I'm going to.
You
one
have
day.
to.
I've talked about him in a couple podcasts. I could track him down. Of course, I have all his information. And
you got to meet this guy.
I have to.
I mean,
I got to.
In so many ways. So
Yeah.
it's one of the most common questions I ask on this show is like how you got your first client or customer, which obviously this was your first online one. But the fact that you've never even met him is actually just really fascinating to me. I feel like, because there's so much to be said about like what that does to your psyche as a business owner or an entrepreneur or freelancer or whatever, of like really getting that first customer and having somebody actually like give you money for your product or services, and what that feels like and how that changes you, even if it's $1. Of like what that kind of just teaches you. Especially, I mean, I'm sure it was big for you too, as somebody who came from, you were in the military and then you're working for this elevator company, and so you'd never really done anything per se that was just like this old, maybe you have your own entrepreneur venture where you were making money or a side hustle or anything, and just like how that changes you as a person.
Totally. This is the first adventure in that world. This would be a podcast on another day, or a different type of podcast.
Yeah.
In that operating system that I learned growing up in those formative years I was originally talking about, like I didn't meet my birth mother until I saw her in her casket. Like that's when I first met her, at about 35 years old. And due to what had happened in my early days, I developed this sense of like I'm always going to be abandoned, not good enough for things. Developed the coping that went along with that, so I could try to fit in. And the next thing I knew, like I perceived myself as like a monster, a real life monster, my whole life until I started to work on that. And so Had I not done the work on myself to realize that, what I had gone through, it's normal. There's a reason for it medically. There's a community out there to support you. Like I never would have learned to understand that, like, I can try things and fail, because before it's like I was just way too afraid of failure. I'll never, ever, ever be good enough. And if I'm being 100% honest with your audience, like that, it's not like that's just like completely gone out of your life. Like you carry a little bit of that with you. I just try to harness that the best I can, and it doesn't consume me, but it is one of the driving forces in my life that now has allowed me to be free. And the idea of, like, do you say getting that dollar for someone like paying you to do something, to not just to watch their like the windows or something like that, and that's an honorable profession, but like you're doing that like to provide, like help them feel better, like the way we do from the inside out. And that's the ultimate thing for me. That's why this is the calling. And there anyone would tell you, you're trying to grow your own thing. Gosh, like if it's easy, then like you're leaving something on the table.
Yeah, call me.
Yeah.
Tell me the secret.
you're leaving money on the table. Like you have something. You are either so brilliant in that you know something that absolutely no one on the planet Earth knows, and then of course it'd be easy for you because you have that. But for the other 99.9% of us, it is hard, and I think of the days of the elevator days, the Marine, like those, maybe I should just go sell some elevators again, right? That it creeps in. And that was an easy life, and that's not like that comes in like every, few months. I mean, that comes in like maybe once a week or every other week, when it's just like a day like today, right? Not getting here exactly at the time that we agreed that like destroyed me. And I will make it up to you, man.
I appreciate that. No, it's all good.
Yeah, now it's on your thing. So now I have to be held to account.
Yeah, you admitted it. So
Yep,
I can't wait until you listen to this later.
Yeah. Yep.
No, I can 1,000% relate. And I think anybody who's ever tried to grow their own thing or build their own business or freelance or step away from a lot of that stuff has those feelings pretty regularly of like, what am I doing? It's so much easier if I could just like go get a job. And this isn't to bash anybody who works jobs. Jobs are great. If you love your job, that's super cool. It's awesome. But for those people who are trying to do their own thing, like I think everyone can relate to that feeling of, man, what am I doing? And for me, the thing honestly that keeps me going, as weird as it sounds, is I remember the first time I ever really met like a true quote unquote entrepreneur. It was a guy I'm from Minnesota, and he had started basically this like, it's like a Zamboni for potholes, basically, is what the business was, is he'd drive around and fix potholes, because that's a huge issue in Minnesota, obviously. And he said something to me that I still carry with me, and I think it's one of the things that keeps me going. And I now know what it feels like. And he said, this was the first time he ever started a business. He was in his, I think, 60s. And he goes, this is the hardest I've ever worked, but the most fulfilled I've ever felt by my work. And I was like, I get that. And now I understand that. I understand what he's talking about, of like the roller coaster of what I now experience on a day-to-day basis is terrifying. But at the same time, it's like, what's the alternative? Like the comfortable life, which is fine, nothing wrong, no judgment, zero judgment, but like I just know my personality well enough that I just wouldn't be super happy doing that. So
yeah, 100%. And it's really interesting, like even though like I love those jobs, like in like the elevator trade, every Monday, in the last one, of course, I was traveling, so I was like extra grad. But even before, when I wasn't traveling, it's just waking up, going to work. Every or Sunday night when it crept in, it's like, oh my God, Monday to work. Like I like the clockwork, like get that pit in the stomach Sunday. Like, oh my God, like here comes work, like Monday through Friday again, and you're just like counting down, like week after week after week after week. Since I started this business, not one time have I ever in the history of ever thought like, oh my God, like here comes another work week. Like not one time. There have been plenty of instances of like, why isn't this not working? Stuff like that. But you're so like, if you love it, in which I do, like you are just like compelled to do it and it's not work. I can't really quite explain it other than like you just feel like you're driven. So like everything that you're doing is just not work. It's like you're just in like enhancing something, or you're building something, or you're creating something. And if you know, or at least I know that I'm feeling like this while really working so hard, like I'm in a good spot. Like I have, and it's not a fluke, right? It's been, years like doing this, and hope to be many more. And I feel like that's a good place to like to feel like you're in mentally, that like you're not just grinding, right? You're creating. You might be taking a step back, but you truly are taking not just a step forward, but you're just leaping into different realms of things that you're doing. And my goodness, like anyone's listening to this, if you are a small business coach, I'm actively looking for one in preferably health and wellness space, but it doesn't have to be, because my biggest downfall is where I'm too into the weeds of things, too detailed, or like fixating on a pixel inside of one of the countless pages, right? And I get stuck on that forever. Or I've gotten better at this, but just I need to get better at corralling some of my ideas. As good as that they are, I tend to like stray a little bit from, okay, we're just gonna continue to be incredible at this one thing for a while until we have mastered that, versus like trying to like create, either it's a different product or a different experience or something like that. So that's where I feel like I can get help with.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that one. For me right now, it's writing. I've gone really deep into the rabbit hole of getting really good at writing because two reasons. One, I feel like it's the ultimate like online sales tool, I would say, of like really being able to communicate a message to somebody. And also too, it's helped me clarify my thinking a lot, which often clarifies my speaking as well. I want to respect your time. We got a little bit of time left.
Yeah.
A few things I want to cover before we go. One of them is, and we can do a really short version of it. You've, like I mentioned earlier, have grown a very healthy social media following. What do you contribute that to? Or maybe what's the piece of advice you could give to people listening to the show to maybe do that themselves or to replicate that?
One, the landscape's always changing. So understanding like how it's working from the top is pretty, like you got to understand that. How certain algorithms are changing, because that will affect you. Folks listening to this, you're gonna find there's no industry more saturated than folks out there, because it's so easy. Camera, kettlebell, we're gonna do this workout, post it, done. Like we could do a workout right now and post it, and we're gonna be competing for eyeballs for all those other people there. So why would you continue to do that? Like, is your workout better than others? Is your physique better than others? Maybe it is. But really it comes down to, for me personally, and what I've noticed in the accounts that I like to follow, is just comes down to authenticity. It's got to come down to relatability. Can folks relate to your particular story? Do you have a story to tell? And it doesn't have to be like a story like mine to be successful. It just has to be a story, your story. Like what is going to get someone to just pause? And certainly you're casting the net, and you're not telling the story to every single person in the world. It's the folks that you absolutely want to connect with. And I'm trying to connect with folks in the 35 to 40 and beyond range, usually moms, dads, veterans, of course. I don't do that as heavy as I once was, get back to that. But those are the people that I'm speaking to. And I'm creating content for that, but naturally, I'm just really telling my own story. If you feel like you're finding yourself against the grain all the time, where it's just like an insurmountable content creation, creative dilemma, where you just can't put it all together, like you're just fighting it all the time, perhaps it's a little bit outside of your natural element, right? And maybe you can bring that in, or just rethink it to where it's a little bit, it's always going to be hard. Content creation is hard. At least it is for me. But maybe you could bring it in and try to find a path that's a little bit more natural to you. So it's not as like the friction. It's not as hard. There's not as much friction. I find that the folks who are either true celebrities, right, and people that are just like, man, what are they doing, right? You're living in their life for a moment, right? You follow their accounts. The true subject matter experts, you could be a subject matter expert. You are a subject matter expert. Lots of people out there in your own given jobs are subject matter experts. If you continue to go to courses and trainings and things like that, you're sharpening your sword, becoming more of a subject matter expert. If you stick within that and you're able to authenticate that message like in a way that can relate to people, if you trust that process, that will grow because people will find value in that. And I'll stop for that. And lots of people will stop for that if they believe that you are the subject matter expert. But that takes time. Or the third thing is having some sort of inspirational story, which is kind of where I fall. I'm a blend of subject matter expert and just having a relatable story. And I stick to that. You might surprise yourself that one day you just go on a tear and you are in your own sense of your own industry of being authentic about it, and where you're just like, okay, I'm pouring this, how do I want to perceive this? How would I want to hear this? And you put that kind of content out there, however it works and fits into your framework, you're going to just be like all of a sudden hit with like, that was refreshing. Mm-hmm. And when you get that, that's a good place to be.
Yeah, man. I love the idea of sharing your story. I've said this before on the show of we're always best positioned to serve the person we once were. And so I think a lot about that, about how the experiences that you went through are often the gifts you can give to others to help them on their journey. I have a quick rapid fire question round, and then I have one final question. First thing that comes to mind for some of these questions, because it is a rapid fire question round. First one is, what would be your best business advice?
Get help early on.
Mentorship, like that. Best marketing advice?
Utilize the free tools that are available. Social media, be authentic with it.
Favorite part about entrepreneurship?
Not waking up Monday dreading it.
When are you the most productive?
In my workout time, if I happen to be exercising at that time between 5:30 and 7
a.m.
a.m. If it's a rest day, same thing.
Who is your inspiration?
My goodness, every single person on the 10,000 athlete team, they are true. They're like the real athletes, right? And then there's me. I'm still not even sure how I'm there. But
it's because you're authentic, man.
but they're
like,
awesome.
This guy's real.
Yeah.
Let's get him on. Tell me one secret about you, or something that just like most people don't probably know about you.
I'm actually terrified of speaking with like one-on-one. Like if we didn't have this.
Wait, what? Of this conversation right now? This scares you?
No, because I have the headphones on and I know it's going out to an audience, and I feel like I perceive this as more like a community.
Oh,
right.
So you don't do coffee meetings, is what you're telling me?
I can't do that. And if I were to go directly into that camera right there and just speak directly into it, you can look at my phone. I'll show you. I have like 1,000 takes of me just trying to like give it out one simple message to, maybe it's like a group video inside of our training app. Right. It's terrified of it. I can't do it.
Damn, man.
Can't do it. Yeah. It's all as much as I'm in front of the camera, but it's like,
okay.
I don't think of it like that. Yeah.
For anybody listening to the show, if you're struggling to create content, just know that I'm sitting next to a guy that can't even have one-on-one conversation, but has a great content following. So you can definitely do it. What would you change about yourself?
If we're still in rapid fire, man, that's super loaded. Genuinely forgive myself for that harm people like in the past. Genuinely do that.
We'll have to get in on that
another time. Yeah. I'd probably dance a little. If I could be like a more spontaneous dancer, that's probably what it would be, because then I can make my wife just a little bit happier. She would love that. She would totally love that, and I could pay it back to her for getting me to eat anything but pizza rolls.
When's the last time you had a pizza roll, for the record?
Gosh, man.
It's been years?
It's been a long time. My wife has gotten like the 100% organic, gluten-free, dairy-free, everything in the life-free.
Calorie-free. They're phenomenal. Yeah. No flavor. You probably won't even like them, honestly, at this point, because your palate's probably changed, so you probably wouldn't really enjoy it that much, honestly. Maybe you would. I don't know. Favorite part about Austin?
And paddleboarding.
Okay. Yeah, I live right by Lady Bird, and I paddleboard out there all the time. Before I ask my last question, I just want to acknowledge you, man, for just obviously so many of the things you talked about being authentic, like really going through all the challenges of life and the ups and downs, and saying how you're still on the journey and you'll continue to be on the journey, and clearly having a really like emotional passion for helping people. I feel like that shows up pretty clearly in a lot of the stuff that I've seen of you and just the connection I've had with you here today of like, you obviously genuinely want to help people, and that shows up very clearly to me, which I feel like is probably a huge contributor to the success you have. And so I just really wanted to acknowledge that and appreciate that about you.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. Last question. If you were to start over from ground zero, we're back in, what was this, 2019 is when you started. What would be the piece of advice that you would give to yourself or even somebody else in that position wanted to do what you've done? What would maybe be the best piece of advice you could give to that person?
The joking advice would be not to order 30,000 business cards. Yeah.
Stickers, though. However, I know stickers work a little bit better than business cards. I'll tell you that much. But that's I digress.
Oh, man. Now you got me thinking. Man, biggest piece of advice, I would say, if you're just getting started, you're creating content galore, right? No matter which way you shake it. Like, it's either going on your, even if you market in just newspapers, and that's it, like old school, right? You still got to create some basic ad for that. You're selling something. Right, that's it. Like even non-profit, like they're selling an idea of something, and so my thing would be like, think about your content as a strategy of like, how can I be the most efficient with this? Can I create one piece like this interview right here? This could be sliced up into tons of different content over social media, obviously the blog all over the place. I mean, you could take one 15-minute, 30-minute dinner, and you can create all kinds of content from that thing. I wish I could go back and think about, like, if I were to do it all over again, I would think about it in that sense of, if I do a particular workout, I'm going to do it well. Like, I'm going to film it well. Everything's going to be done well. But then I could take that and I could save it, archive it, and put it in a million different places. And I've just saved myself so much time, and it was awesome, versus trying to do as much as I possibly could, but maybe the quality wasn't there, and stuff is just sort of just like lost, and you're kind of fighting all the time to create more. Could have saved a lot of headaches. So that would probably be it. Yeah.
Love that, man.
Yeah,
Appreciate
man.
you being on the show. Thanks,
Hey,
brother.
thanks for having me, brother.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the show, and I hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as I enjoyed recording it. Before you go, I only have one ask of you, and that would be to check out my 3 Tips Tuesday newsletter. It's 3 marketing tips every Tuesday that is specific for the health and fitness professional to help them market and grow their business. If you press the link in the description, it will take you to the archive of all my previous posts, and you can decide for yourself if it's something for you. If you find it helpful in any way, you can just sign up for the newsletter on that page, and then you'll get the weekly 3 Tips Tuesday in your inbox every week. Thanks again, and keep hustling, my friends.